What's going on, everybody? It is the NFL Experts. I'm Wayne G, joined as always by Mark D. What's going on, Mark?
What's up, Wayne? So once again, I'm on location because my Wi-Fi sucks at home. So I'm at Starbucks today.
So we're testing out Starbucks, seeing if they're any better than B-dubs, right?
Well, there's no alcohol here, so they're already down one.
Okay. So obviously we have a huge action-packed show for everybody today. We have a lot of free agency news, trades, rumors, everything. We're going to try to get to all of it. Before we do, please make sure you are following us on social media. That's on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, everything. We are at NFL Experts Pod. So any form at NFL Experts Pod on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. If you want to email us, we are NFL Experts plural pod at gmail.com. We do interact via email, and we love having people join the show, just like Manhour, who says howdy. What's going on, Manhour?
What's up, man? Hour?
So we've mentioned it is big. It is NFL free agency has started, even though it hasn't started. And we have things happening all over. Announced we have Kirk Cousins, 4 years, $180 million with the Atlanta Falcons. There were rumors about him kind of going there, and I'm curious to get your take on the Falcons. There was also rumors that maybe Russell Wilson, maybe they make a trade for Justin Fields. How do you feel about this decision going with Kirk Cousins?
Well, first of all, I think we all need Kirk Cousins' agent because this guy is getting paid guaranteed money, and he's been doing it over and over again. So first that, but second, this is really good for Atlanta. They have a ton of good weapons that he's going to be able to utilize. And then also, he's still going to the same kind of scheme that he ran with Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota. It's the same coaching tree from LA. So I think that's a good fit. So yeah, I think for them it's a big bonus, but I think it's a big loss for Minnesota.
Is a huge loss because every year he puts up great numbers. And by great, I mean 70% completion percentages, 4,500 yards or 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, really good touchdown to interception ratio. He just doesn't win. So now he's going to Atlanta. This is a team that is looking to win right now. They interviewed Bill Belichick. They want to win now. They have some offensive pieces, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson. They also signed another wide receiver, which we'll talk about in a minute. I like Kirk Cousins because I think he's a win right now guy. As far as this contract, they can cut him in that third season because there's not a lot of dead cap, and he's going to be getting $57.5 million that year. His contract is structured like this: 25, 40, 57.5, 57.5. So he might only get, 65 to 80 million out of that.
Man, that's so much money, dude. Like I said, all this guaranteed cash. But like I was saying before, I think Minnesota missed out, man. I think he possibly wanted to stay there, and I don't think they offered him enough money. And I'm not sure what they're thinking. Like, do they just think they're just going to get one of these guys in the draft and he's just going to turn out to be awesome? Like, that's not always works out like that.
Manhour does say the 2024 season has started. It's here. It started 3 hours ago. And then they say, so they pay Kirk $180 million at 36 years old, but pass on $200 million for Lamar last season. Odd. A lot of teams were out on Lamar last year, and I don't get it because, to be honest with you, I wanted the Patriots to sign him. There was a rumor that Bob Kraft wanted him, and it was $50 million, and a lot of people scoffed at that, but the cap was going up $50 million, so why not? And I think anybody who passed on Lamar Jackson missed because we're talking about the MVP.
Dude, they definitely missed. Kirk Cousins isn't even the same ballpark as Lamar Jackson, so I don't understand why they would go all in this year, but not last year to sign him. I mean, last offseason doesn't make any sense to me either.
Now, from a quarterback who is hoping to make the playoffs, hoping to get that team to the next level, let's go with a quarterback who's going to a playoff-ready team with a playoff-ready defense, and he's a playoff-experienced quarterback with a Super Bowl ring near and dear to your heart, playing for the league minimum in 2024. Russell Wilson goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I knew you were going to bring this up, but like I was saying many times off air, Wayne, I was pretty sure he was going to go to the most desperate quarterback team. It was either going to be the Steelers or the Vikings or the Raiders. So he picked the Steelers because they have the most notoriety in the NFL, He wants to play for that black and yellow. He's already come out on his social media with all this crazy stuff. So obviously they don't care about all that. Yeah, dude, I'm just glad he's gone. I'm really glad that we're rebuilding and we had to cut the cord.
Yeah, well, and they get a steal because they had Kenny Pickett, who threw 6 touchdowns, I think, all of last year in 12 games, so one every other game. They get Russell Wilson, who had 28 touchdowns to 6 picks. That defense, they signed Patrick Queen. They added him to the defense that was already elite, and then they add Russell Wilson at quarterback, which was their only missing piece. I would have to say the Steelers. What do you think? Second or third favorite? I mean, you still got to think the Chiefs, but Steelers right there.
They're in a really tough division, though, man. They got to battle Burrow and they got to battle Lamar. So, like, good luck to him, man. But it's going to be a gauntlet for him.
Maybe. Now, Manauer does say that Lamar does not win in the playoffs, and Kirk doesn't win primetime games. So what's the difference?
Also true.
And then they say that Super Bowl Steelers Nation, let's ride. And finally, or it's a great fit. Come on, make great defense. He's there to manage the game. Super Bowl. I think if anyone can manage a game and do it well, it's Russell Wilson. He's learned how to do that. We've talked about it. You want to win a Super Bowl, you need a game manager.
So you think this is a good fit for them?
Oh, it's an amazing fit for them. Amazing, because I mean, I guess I'll ask you, why would you say that Russell Wilson wouldn't be a good fit there?
Oh, no, I'm not saying it's not a good fit. I'm really curious what other people's opinions. Like, this is one thing that I don't understand is, like, as soon as, like, all the last 2 years, everybody's been bashing Russ when he was a Bronco. Like, obviously, like, he played bad with Nate Hackett, and then he kind of had a resurgence with Sean Payton, but Sean Payton didn't want him. But then all of a sudden now he goes to Pittsburgh, and, like, everybody loves him again. It's like, what the hell? Is it because it's my Broncos that, like, they hated him, and all of a sudden now it's okay? Like, that's one thing that bugs me.
Well, Mike over Manauer says because he wants him to fail. That's why you think that Russell Wilson would not fit in. So, and let's see, Mike also says it's not a good fit because he's not in Denver. Mark D 2024. So we do know that you have a little bit of bias about Russell Wilson because you don't like the situation. I don't think it's about Russ personally. It's just that situation made you upset. But we have to admit that Russell Wilson still has gas in the tank. He showed that last year. You would admit that it was a mistake benching him with 2 games left. We understand why they did it because otherwise it would have been even more of a cap hit to cut him. But he was playing well.
Like, well, it's like what I said last week, man. It's like I'm glad that Sean Payton's not doubling down. It's like he tried making it work with Russ. It didn't work with him. It's not his guy. He wants to go find his guy. Like, I don't know if Sean Payton's never really, like, developed the quarterback. He got lucky with Drew Brees. I wouldn't say lucky, but he got lucky with Drew Brees, and really helped him out. And I think now he realizes that he has to develop a guy, draft a guy, and I hope that's what he's doing.
Well, we do have Mark Lewis says Wilson will not win a Super Bowl in Pittsburgh. He might not, but he also might. He definitely makes them a better team. I'm not going to say it guarantees them a Super Bowl, but he definitely makes them a better team. And Mike over at Manauer says, from a Chiefs fan myself, I'm scared of the Steelers. Ravens, not so much.
Interesting.
Now, I do want to ask you this because keeping it with the quarterback, we have Baker Mayfield signed for 3 years, $100 million in Tampa. I think it's a great fit. Once again, he did well with them last year. There was talk that he wanted $44 million. They were offering $25. Looks like they met in the middle at $33 million a year for the annual value. I think $33 million, based on how he played last year, is a bargain for Baker Mayfield.
Dude, this is a great deal. Like I said many shows ago, I really wanted Baker. Like, I knew there was no chance we were ever going to get him. He's, like, always been, like, my secret bromance crush in the NFL, if you would say. Like, I always liked him a lot. I think he's got, like, a lot of balls, He was really screwed over after the whole Deshaun Watson thing. So I'm really glad to see him succeed and get this deal, man.
It does, and it helps that they got Mike Evans back as well. That team's kind of coming together. They do have some defensive pieces they still need to sign, so we'll see what they do with that. Quarterback news that's not so big, but you did comment about it offline, which is why I'm bringing it up, was Drew Lock, Sam Darnold going to Minnesota. When Lock signed there, you said Drew Lock to Minnesota, weird. And I'm curious to get your take. Like, what was weird about it? Because they are a quarterback needy team.
Well, not weird, but I guess I meant weird in the sense that the Vikings would want him. He ended up going to the Giants. I was wrong about that anyway. That was a misreport. I just didn't know where the Vikings were thinking. It's like you get rid of Cousins for Sam Darnold and Drew Lock. Yeah, that's why I was like weird. Like,
Well, you get rid of a guy who was making $40 million and bring in a guy who's going to make 4 or 5, right?
Right, but way less talented,
Yeah, I think Sam Darnold is actually quite talented. I think he has gotten a bad rap starting off with the Jets, obviously. It was not a great situation for him. Goes to Carolina, bounces around. He's the backup in San Francisco. But in terms of talent, if we remember him coming in as a rookie, Sam Darnold has tons of talent at quarterback. He just hasn't quite found his home yet.
Also, he did get drafted by the Jets, who are like notorious for ruining players and draft picks and whatever else. So, yeah, I can see that. And he did have a resurgence in San Fran. I kept hearing that he was linked to the Broncos, that he was maybe the one guy that we might have signed. And then when he went to the Vikings, maybe we didn't want to pay him what they paid him. I'm not sure.
Now, Mike from Man Hour does say the Bucs were the front runners until the Falcons signed Kirk. I'm guessing he means in the NFC South. And I still think they have the edge. The Falcons still have some work to do. Kirk's a great addition. They still have some pieces they need to put into place. Drake London doesn't really have a wide receiver on the other side. They paid $36 million for Darnell Mooney, which I'll get to that in a second when we get to receivers. That makes no sense to me. So we'll see. I still think the Bucs are the favorite there. He then says same amount of primetime wins, I guess, is Mason, because he said Mason signed with the Titans. And then we have Mark Lewis says Drew Lock is sorry. And so is Sam. Both are hot garbage. They both have had bad careers. I would rather have Sam Darnold because I do think he has more talent than Drew Lock. But you're right. They're both backups that are going to end up in a starting situation to make that team bad so they can get a lottery pick essentially next year.
This makes me think what I talked about last week, Wayne, about how that surprising team, the Giants, might draft a quarterback. I think this is like kind of pointing that way.
I think so as well. And I do want to point out here, Mike kind of backs up my point here. He says $40 million will get you one primetime win, meaning Kirk Cousins. $5 million and Sam Darnold will get you one primetime win. So take the $5 million for one win. And then Mark Lewis, again, thank you, Mark, for chiming in, a new watcher of the show. They are good third-string quarterbacks. I'd say backups. I like them both as a backup if they have to come in and play 2 or 3 games. I like both of those guys. I don't like them for a 17-game season. And, all right, now so we got those guys out of the way. Lastly, we're going to go with Mike's team, the Kansas City Chiefs, and Patrick Mahomes restructuring his contract. We knew this was going to happen. Basically, he signed that deal, $500 million for 10 years, but it's a year-by-year deal. So every year it's $50 million, but the Chiefs can opt out with no dead money, essentially. But what he's doing is taking that $50 million base salary or whatever it is, turning it into a signing bonus. So then his salary cap number goes down to 20. And then they re-sign Chris Jones for 5 years, $159 million, AAV of 31.5. Two thoughts on this. Okay, obviously, one, Patrick Mahomes taking a page out of the Tom Brady playbook, taking the pay cut to keep players around. That's how you win multiple championships. That's how you create a dynasty. Number 2, Chris Jones staying in Kansas City. A lot of teams out there are going to be sad because this is a huge,
that's a big move.
Keep for them,
So like it's like that saying, Wayne, the rich get richer. That's the Chiefs for you. I read somewhere or heard somewhere that he's got a clause in his contract, a restructure clause. So every time that he restructures, they give him a bonus that he gets paid like later on. So it's like he's got a great deal. So it's like, yeah, he's restructuring, but it's also he knows he's getting a bonus later on down the road.
But that's what all restructures are, is basically they're taking base pay and turning it into a signing bonus, which is now guaranteed money. It just gets spread out over the length of the contract, which makes your cap number go down. But you're still getting paid the same amount.
I just thought it was funny that it's like in the contract. I just thought that was crazy.
Mark Lewis does think that the Vikings should draft a quarterback, and so should the Raiders. I think both teams do need, especially the Raiders. Although I do like Gardner Minshew, I don't think that he is the answer there long term. And it makes me sad to say that because I don't think he's a starter anywhere, but he's a stopgap everywhere. And I like Gardner Minshew a lot. I think he's going to be great for them next year. I don't think AOC is going to play. I think it's going to be Gardner Minshew all season long. He's going to have a great year. Maybe they keep him for a second year and then he's gone. But I do think they need to draft a quarterback. they aren't as hard pressed for it as the Vikings, because right now the Vikings starter is Sam Darnold. I'd much rather have Gardner Minshew than Sam Darnold.
Okay, so I'm glad that he brought that up. Do you think they pick one in the first round, or do you think they wait?
The Vikings need a quarterback right now. The Raiders can wait. The Raiders can wait until the second round because there's going to be some good quarterbacks in the second round, and you're going to bring them along slowly. They can even wait later than that if they want, because you do have Minshew for at least 2 years. You can go get a guy like Joe Milton who needs 2 years of development, and it's fine because you have Minshew starting for 2 years. I think the Vikings need a quarterback right now. They still don't have one. They still don't have a starting quarterback. So whoever they're looking to draft, I think has to be a first-round pick. I'm even thinking maybe they move up to get one of the starting quarterbacks, because I don't think they're going to draft a guy like Bo Nix in round 2 and start him.
I would agree with you on that. I think the Vikings do need to draft one in the first round. The Raiders probably could wait and get a guy like Spencer Rattler or maybe Michael Penix if they drop to the second or third. Yeah, I can see that. But, like, I was asking you that because, like, I know that we're probably eyeing one of these quarterbacks. So, and there are competition for if we don't move up. So that's why I'm wondering if the Raiders won't pick one in the first round and might give us a chance at one.
Now, Mike does come in and say that the Raiders like Minshew. Mr. I can only play well for 7 games a season. That's 7 games more than AOC played well for last year. So I think that that's a pretty good upgrade for them. And then Mark Lewis says we will also sign, I'm guessing, Snead back with that money. I hope so for them because he's a good fit. They've tagged him. I don't know. Can they work out a long-term deal? It depends on what they're looking to pay, because he is the guy who could get $20 million a year on the open market. And I think his tag is what, like 16 million, 17 million. So maybe they can work that out, but 20 million plus the 30 million for Jones is the full 50 million that Mahomes basically dropped down to 20. So I think he made that move. I don't know how close to the cap they are. I didn't do that research, so that's my apologies. But I would like to see them re-sign Snead as well.
Rich get richer. God damn it, Chiefs.
Funny you say that. Mike does chime in and say, rich don't get richer. Rich are smart, meaning they use their money smarter.
Touche.
And let's see. Mark Lewis, someone said they offered KC a second-round pick for Snead. I consider that. I don't know if I would do it, but I would consider that. See what else we got. Raiders will blow the draft 100%. They will draft Penix Jr. in the first round. Penix Jr. is going to be a good pick. I don't think that's blowing it. Well, what me and Mark talk about is the Raiders are going to draft Xavier Worthy in the first round because they like that speed.
Just because he's fast, man. Speed kills.
And Mark Lewis says Raiders will definitely wait. AP is a defensive guy. I can see the Raiders taking a linebacker in the first round. Maybe, but he's been signing offensive players. So we'll see. Whoops. My phone fell out of my ear. Okay. Let's see. All right. So let's get off of quarterbacks for a minute here. We're going to jump into running backs. Holy moly, were there a lot of running backs that changed places in the offseason here. Let's start with Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley goes to the Eagles from the Giants. 3 years, $38 million. It could be as much as 47. This move actually puzzled me a little bit because last year they chose not to pay Miles Sanders, who is coming off of a 1,200-yard season. He goes to Carolina for 2 years and $12 million. So you could have had him for $6 million a year. That's how much he would have signed with for the Eagles. Instead, they decided to pay $12 million a year, double what Miles Sanders is getting, to a guy who didn't have 1,000 yards last year. I can't make heads or tails of that.
That's actually a good thought, Wayne. I wouldn't have thought of that. Yeah, so this move is actually, I think, is a good move for Saquon because he gets away from the stupid Giants who are terrible and they didn't want to pay him. So he's going to a team that is actually going to pay him. My question to you, Wayne, is do you think, like everybody was talking about the running back market is dead, do you think because of this year's draft, because it's not very deep, that all these guys got paid, or do you think it's more of a resurgence of the position getting paid?
I don't know if it's a resurgence of the position. I definitely think it is a shallow draft, but there is production to be had in this draft. I'm actually surprised at the way the salaries have gone with the running backs because I personally don't believe in paying running backs on that second contract because other than Derrick Henry, I can't think of one who's done well on his second deal. So, I mean, other than going back to the 90s with like Barry Sanders and Emmitt Smith, but modern day running backs, they just don't pan out in that second deal. So this surprised me that they're getting paid as much as they are. However, I do think Saquon Barkley is a good fit in Philadelphia. He's much better than the Kenny Gainwell, Rashad Penny, DeAndre Swift, three-headed, I don't even want to call it a monster, three-headed bunny. They got Saquon Barkley, who I think is a much better fit.
And dude, he's going to be playing around that offensive line, which is like one of the best in the league. Like he's never had that in New York. So he's going to like see some big old holes to run through. Like good for him, man. Good for him.
Well, and that's what Mike says here. Mike Buck says, good move for him, but the Eagles are dumb. Again, we talk about these teams signing running backs. You should never really do that. Mark Lewis says that Saquon is a beast, but he's accident prone. I don't know. We'll see how it turns out. And then Mike follows with, the Eagles are in panic mode. Swift left and didn't want a three-headed monster.
Do you think now that they have him that they're still going to do the tush push? Or do you think, and with Kelsey gone, do you think that's still going to be a thing for them?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it hasn't been stopped yet, right? It's been stopped a couple times, but it's still working for the most part, so stick with it. So now we talk about Josh Jacobs to Green Bay. This one's 4 years, $48 million, so even bigger. However, when you look at the details of the contract, it's really a one-year deal when you look at it. It's 1 year at $14.8 million, and then the next 3 seasons are team options, so they can cut him with no dead money after the first season. So this is a really safe deal for Green Bay. It's really the deal that the Eagles should have given Saquon. I loved this signing by the Packers. I think that Josh Jacobs is a huge upgrade over Aaron Jones. I think giving more weapons to Jordan Love is only going to make him better, make the team better. So even though I don't agree with the salary, the fact that it's only a 1 year deal and what he's able to do for that team, I like this deal better than the Eagles deal.
I think I agree with you, man. I think this is a great move for Green Bay. Like, I'm not totally sure why they didn't like Aaron Jones. I'm not sure why you don't like Aaron Jones, Wayne. He's a good running back. Like, don't get me wrong. I really like Josh Jacobs also. He's really good running back as well. This one kind of made me sad because I was kind of hoping some way that the Broncos would sign Jacobs because like he always kills us every year. So I'm really glad to kind of see him in the NFC now. But this is also like a very surprising move from the Packers because they never go out and buy players in free agency. It's just not what they do.
Well, I'm going to run through some quick comments here because they're blowing up before we get too far behind. I do have Mike says, Muck. It was the best line in the league. Kelsey's gone. The rest of the team is older. We have John Peebles. What's going on, John? He says, evening, gentlemen.
What up, John?
Our regulars. We have Kelsey was the leader of the push. They could still get another center.
That's what I mean.
Stupidest of the stupid moves. I'm guessing that means Saquon Barkley. John Peebles hates it. And Jacobs left the Raiders. Oh, that's why he hates. Okay, so Peebles hates Jacobs going to the Packers because he left the Raiders. All right. So let me ask you this then. So we got those two. Aaron Jones, we mentioned him. He's out now, right? He goes to the Vikings 1 year, $7 million. Again, I like this deal for him. Like I said, I don't hate Aaron Jones. I just like Josh Jacobs a lot better. He's 26. Aaron Jones is 30. You've got 4 years, which is a lifetime for a running back. So that's why I like Jacobs better. But Aaron Jones is a good running back. I agree with you. And I think the Vikings got a really good deal here because I think they're losing Madison. So I think that this is a good addition.
Do you think that he went there just because they're their rival, or do you think that they were the one team that offered him a deal?
I won't say the one team. It happened really fast. So I'll say the first team maybe. He got cut. First telephone call was the Vikings. He said, sure, let's do it. I don't think he fielded a lot of calls.
Yeah, that's what I think so too.
Now, this one puzzled me, and I'll get your take on it too. Zach Moss signs with the Bengals, 2 years, $8 million. Then they cut Joe Mixon. And they trade him. They trade Joe Mixon to the Texans. First off, love this move for the Texans and CJ Stroud. They got a great running back.
I agree.
But here's what I don't understand it is that Joe Mixon was only due $6 million this year. So why not ride him out for another year?
I didn't understand that either. I was kind of baffled myself. I was like, Mixon's a good guy, good running back. Like they said that he averages like 5-point-something yards a game. It's like you don't get rid of a guy like that. So maybe it was a cap thing, and then but then now that you say that it was only $6 million, I'm not sure, dude. Bengals doing Bengal things? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, Zach Moss certainly is not an upgrade by any means. So
No.
you're actually downgrading. And like I said, you've got CJ Stroud now. Instead of Devin Singletary, you've got Joe Mixon. The Texans and CJ Stroud just got better.
I think the Texans had like a huge free agent signings that they're going to turn their team completely around. And they were pretty good in the playoffs last year. So look out for them.
We'll jump into some of these comments. We won't get to all of them, so I apologize if we don't get everybody's comments up. But we do have Mark Lewis says, if the Vikings get a quarterback worth a damn, they could be dangerous. I just don't see it. I don't see it either with what's left on the board, Mark, but I do think that the draft is still there. They could still get a decent quarterback in the draft. I just think they're probably going to be looking second round, and that's going to be a developmental player. Even in the first round, if they trade up and they somehow get Jaden Daniels, who I love, that's an amazing pick, by the way, for the Vikings. If they got Jaden Daniels, he's not going to start till week 8 or 9. So it's still a developmental process. So I think that the Vikings are probably looking at another top 10 pick next year. And let's see. Mike Buck says he was looking for a deal from what I heard, much like T. Higgins. He wanted a long-term deal. And I agree with that. I do think that Joe Mixon was looking for a long-term deal, but he was still under contract for 1 year and $6 million. Now he could have held out, and that would have mucked up everything. I haven't seen any news yet as to the Texans extending him. So we'll see. I'm guessing if they do, it'll be something similar to the Saquon Barkley or the $12 million a year that Josh Jacobs is getting. It's going to be somewhere in that.
I can see that. Speaking of Higgins, do you think Higgins is going to get traded?
Higgins is an interesting thing because here's my thing looking at Higgins is that he's on the tag right now at $21.8 million. And I'm looking at the other receivers who signed so far, and we're looking at guys getting $26 million, $23.3 million. So he's in the ballpark. The question is, how much is he looking to get? Does he want to get $30 million a year like Justin Jefferson money? Because I don't think he's worth that. And I know that in his mind, he's probably a number 1 receiver, but I feel like paying him like a number 2 or a 1B receiver, which is in that $23 to $25 million range. Now, I would get, if you're going to give him the 1 year tag at 21.5, then I would give him 4 and 100. I think T. Higgins is that guy to give him that. But if he's looking for 4 and 150 or 4 and 140, yeah, see ya.
I mean, I can see why the Bengals don't want to get rid of him, but I could also see his point of view. Like, they're probably going to pay Jamar, so he's probably on his way out. So he probably looks at it like they're just tagging me to use me for a couple more seasons. So I can see that point of view.
Now, Mark Lewis does say the Bengals will be garbage if Higgins walks. Then we will see what Joe can really do. I do agree with that to an extent. They still have Jamar Chase. Boyd is a free agent as well, so they could add some pieces still. Higgins is their number 2. They wouldn't be losing a number 1, but it is a lot to lose your number 2, possibly your number 3, and then Mixon, who would be like your number 4 receiver. They lost their tight end in Irv Smith, although they did re-sign. They signed a tight end, Mike Gesicki, which isn't a big deal. All right, so keeping with the running backs, Derrick Henry to the Ravens. This is one I like a lot. Obviously, this is something that's been talked about for a while, is that he's the perfect fit in Baltimore. I wanted to see him go to KC because I like dynasties. But he goes to Baltimore. I love it for Lamar Jackson because he is better than J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, and Justice is the other guy. All of those running backs combined couldn't equal one Derrick Henry. So this is a huge upgrade for Lamar Jackson.
Huge upgrade. I kind of called this last year. I kept saying that they should have traded for him, and I think they tried trading for him. They didn't get a deal done. So now they got him. The Ravens are so smart too. They waited till like day 2 of free agency to sign him so they can get him at a lower number. So like really smart by them. But also Derrick Henry, like he's for the most part he's always healthy. So that's another plus for the Ravens because their guys are always hurt. And for Lamar Jackson to have this weapon, oh man, it's gonna be crazy dangerous and good for them.
I mean, they are losing a lot of pieces, so this does hurt that they're losing those pieces. They're trying to build around. They re-signed Matabuke, which is going to help the defense. They did lose Patrick Queen. They've got some holes to fill. Their defense is what holds them together. Lamar's great. I think giving him Derrick Henry, and he still has guys to throw to with Bateman and obviously Zay Flowers. Odell's gone. As far as we know, he's a free agent. He could still re-sign, but I don't know if he will. I just like the Ravens a lot, but I still think if they lose guys like Odell, they're losing 5 defensive players, 2 offensive players. Even with the addition of Derrick Henry, which I love, I still think Russell Wilson and the Steelers are a better team.
That's a very good point, Wayne. I agree with Manhour that I don't want to see him succeed. So I don't know. I really hope the Ravens are better.
To touch on a little bit of draft talk here, just going through the comments, we do have John Peebles says that Spencer Rattler is the best horse in the race. I do like Spencer Rattler a lot. He's going to be a second-round pick, probably, maybe sneaks into the bottom of the first. And I know that he would like to see him go to the Vikings. And I think that would be a great get for the Vikings. Absolutely. So we'll see there. And then, of course, Manhour disagrees. He says Rattler is going to crumble when it gets tough. He's been running since 2019, meaning obviously entering the transfer pool, going from Oklahoma to South Carolina. But arm talent-wise, he's a very, very good player. All right, let's take a look at again, there's so many running backs here. Tony Pollard goes to the Titans, 3 years, $24 million. I bring it up. Tony Pollard's not a game changer by any means. He's a solid running back. But here's why I bring it up. DeAndre Swift to the Chicago Bears for 3 years and $24 million. So you're telling me the Bears could have gotten Tony Pollard for the same money they just paid DeAndre Swift? I mean, because to me, Tony Pollard is twice the running back that Swift is.
Yeah, honestly, Wayne, if I had a preference, I would choose Swift over Pollard. You know, I couldn't even tell you why. I just think that maybe Swift has more to prove. Pollard is coming off injury, and he played for the Cowboys, who have like a stacked line and have had a stacked line the whole time he's been there. So let's see how he does in Tennessee with their line that's not so great. So yeah, man, I would have chose Swift.
And the last running back that got signed that I put here is the Washington Commanders signed Austin Eckler. He had a bad year last year, but I like some of the moves that the Washington Commanders are making. They signed, I believe, Biadaz, I'm not sure how to say his name, from the Cowboys, the center. They signed Eckler, which I think is a good signing. They're probably going to draft a quarterback with their first pick. They could still sign a receiver. They have McLaurin. The Commanders may not be that bad. They might actually make some moves here and get from that number 2 spot or number 2 pick. They might actually be a contender in the NFC East.
I don't agree with that one. They also signed Mariota, I guess, and I'm guessing he's going to be the bridge guy for whoever they do draft. Either it be May or Daniels. I'm guessing it's going to be Daniels because Mariota is more of a running quarterback than a passing quarterback. So I don't know. Just that's my thought.
Now let's take a look here. We do have some comments. We have Man Hour who says another excuse pending for Lamar. Our defense was bad. So maybe. And then he also says that Tony Pollard needs a second guy. Swift can be a workhorse. I don't think Swift can be a workhorse. To me, Swift is a third down back that gets too many carries because the first down back and the second down back get hurt. So he has to take those carries, but he's built to be a third down back and that's it. So I don't think he's a workhorse at all. What do you think?
He agrees with me.
You think Swift is a workhorse?
Yeah, man, he can be. Like the Eagles didn't really utilize him that well. Like he is a workhorse, and they didn't really use him that well. Like I kind of felt bad for him because every time that he'd get a long run and it was like on the 2 or 3 yard line, you knew they were going to do the tush push, and he got screwed out of the touchdowns every time.
So how about the Lions? Did the Lions also not use him well?
Well, yeah, because they have Gibbs, so he really wasn't the guy there.
Well, Gibbs wasn't there last year. I mean, he was last year, but I mean, like the year when he was with the Lions, Gibbs wasn't there.
No, because Swift played for. Oh, he did play for Detroit. For some reason, I thought he played for somebody else. I don't know, man. I just like Swift better. Like, I think he's a better back.
All right. The theme of this segment is I like this guy just because. And Mark Lewis has the comment: the Bears are stacking Pollard was good behind a good line. Now he goes to Tennessee. I don't know how good Tennessee's line is. I mean, it's good they got Skoronski there. It's not too bad, I guess. Mike Buck says Joe Flacco to the Colts. I didn't see that yet, but if that's the case, that's fine. He's not going to be the starter because Anthony Richardson's the starter there, unless he gets hurt again. Because I guess you could say the same for Swift, though, as far as needing another guy. Yes, Mark, he needs another guy. Swift is not a workhorse guy. And then Manhour says he had 1,200 yards last season. Pollard had 900-ish. The Swift had to. I'm not saying you can't use him in that capacity. The Eagles had to because Penny got hurt, Gainwell wasn't doing well and got hurt. So Swift had to take the majority of those carries, but that's not what he's built for. You're using him as a workhorse, and he's going to break down if they try to do that with him in Chicago. And then he says that the Lions had Jamal Williams, which is why Swift didn't do well there.
Oh, yeah. See, yeah, that's right.
Oh, now you remember. Yes, he jogged your memory.
Well, maybe he'll be the guy now in Chicago.
All right. Well, receivers. Like I told you, this one puzzled the heck out of me. Darnell Mooney goes to the Atlanta Falcons, 3 years, $39 million. Gabe Davis goes to the Jaguars, 3 years, $39 million. So the Falcons could have added Gabe Davis for the same money as Darnell Mooney, and they went with Mooney instead. I mean, we're talking about, looking over the numbers, 25 to 45% more production from Gabe Davis than Mooney, and he got the same money.
Well, do you think maybe, Wayne, in a lot of these deals, maybe sometimes it's preference by the team, and it's also maybe the negotiation with the team? Like maybe this player doesn't want to take what they want to offer. So maybe that's why, like, they don't make those certain decisions, like on certain players, you know?
No, I can understand if a player doesn't want to go to a certain team, but you're looking at Atlanta and Jacksonville. To me, tomato. And when you're talking 3 and 39 versus 3 and 39, tomato. I mean, to me, if I'm Atlanta, I would have rather had Gabe Davis, is all I'm saying.
Well, yeah, maybe they look at Drake London as their deep threat because Gabe Davis is kind of a deep threat kind of guy. So maybe that's why.
Now, Mike does say Mooney got paid. Why?
I agree with that one. Totally agree.
All right, Michael Pittman re-signed with the Colts, and he signed for 3 and 70. So that's 23.3 per year. And this is what I was talking about. Michael Pittman is a perfect comp for T. Higgins. He's kind of a 1B receiver who's the one in Indianapolis. So that's kind of what T. Higgins should expect for a contract is $24 million. I guess I'm curious, do you think if he does get moved, what kind of contract do you think he gets, and what kind of team will give it to him?
Who are we talking about? Pittman?
T. Higgins. No, T. Higgins. Pittman signed already.
Okay. Oh, Higgins. Okay. I'm sure he's looking more for. He's probably looking for more than a 3-year deal, I would guess. He's probably looking for like a long-term, maybe 5-year deal, bigger money. You know, maybe that's why they haven't traded him yet.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is like, if you're a team, would you rather have T. Higgins or Michael Pittman?
I'd rather have T. Higgins.
Really? I don't know. Pittman's actually been a number 1 receiver on a team, and Higgins hasn't. I don't know. To me, I think the Patriots are the team that makes the most sense for T. Higgins because they're desperate for wide receiver. They're starving for one. They're willing to overpay for one. So it makes sense. The question is, what is his trade value now? Obviously, he's on the tag. You have to get him. You have to re-sign him. I'm thinking maybe like a swap. So like the Patriots give up a 3rd-round pick. They get back a 4th or a 5th, and plus T. Higgins.
Very interesting. Remember how we were talking off air about how maybe Cortland Sutton could be a draft day trade possibly for the Broncos? I kind of look at T. Higgins possibly as that same scenario, that they might see something that somebody offers and trade him.
Yeah, as part of a package to move up, move down, pick swap, something like that.
Yep.
Now, Mike Buck does say that Higgins is looking for a team to win a ring with. Well, that's not going to be New England. KC now has $22 million in cap space, and they will pay him 5 years, 95, aka less than the tag. Well, but I thought you wanted to re-sign Snead. So are you going to take Higgins over Snead? I mean, you've got Rashee Rice stepped up. He looks pretty good. You could draft a receiver at the bottom of the 1st round or in the 2nd round. This is a very receiver-rich draft. If I'm KC, I'm not giving up a whole lot, and I'm not spending $100 million on T. Higgins. That's just me.
I agree with you. I don't see them doing that either. And I see them getting a guy or two in this draft because it's so deep, like you said. So that's where I see them going. But I just read this today. They signed Chase Claypool.
Okay. Again, it's like a number 3 receiver.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm not totally sure what they're going to use him for, but they did sign him, I read.
And I do have Calvin Ridley signed with the Tennessee Titans, 4 years, $92 million. I didn't think he was going back to Jacksonville. Sully had mentioned it, that if he goes back to Jacksonville before 4 p.m. today, they would have to give up a 2nd-round pick to Atlanta. if they waited till after, then Jacksonville would still have to give a 3rd round pick to Atlanta. So they just let him walk, and he goes to Tennessee. DeAndre Hopkins is still there. So you now have Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, and I kind of like that. And they got Tony Pollard, who whatever. But you still got Will Levis at quarterback. I think this helps Will Levis quite a bit, and I think we could see a step up from him this coming season.
I like Will Levis a lot, man. So I'm really glad to see that he's getting these weapons. So as soon as you named off all those players, man, they might have a squad.
Yeah. Now, Mike Buck did want to know who signed Chase Claypool. You're saying the Chiefs, right?
The Chiefs.
Okay. There you go. That's your team, Buck. You should know that. And then the last wide receiver news I had here is Deontay Johnson getting traded to the Panthers. They got a pick
Poor
swap,
guy.
like a fourth round pick swap. But here's the thing. So now they've got Deontay Johnson, who's a very good receiver, I think we would say. You've got Adam Thielen, great possession receiver. You've got DJ Chark, right? Good deep threat, 6'4". They have a tight end. I don't know if it's Hayden Hurst. Maybe they have a tight end. Bryce Young is not going to have any excuses next year if he doesn't succeed.
Sorry, Wayne. It's super loud in here. I missed all that.
I was saying that Bryce Young is not going to have any excuses next year because now you're adding all these receivers. He's got a lot of weapons now.
Yes, definitely. You're right. He has weapons now. I mean, but like, is their own line still like they don't? I don't think they did anything to their own line. I need help there.
Oh, speaking, they gave Robert Hunt 5 years and $100 million to play guard.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, so they're trying to beef up the line because that's what they need most, man. Help Bryce.
But I don't like. Is Robert Hunt a 5-year, $100 million guard? I mean, Mike Onwenu just signed with the Patriots. He re-signed with them for 3 years, about $83 million, so the same kind of money. But he signed with the Patriots. He was the best guard in all of football 2 years ago. I don't think I've ever heard Robert Hunt mentioned since he was drafted by the Dolphins.
Yeah, that name kind of surprised me too. I think he was just maybe one of the names in free agency, and so they're going to take a chance on him. The Broncos have done that with right tackles over the years, so that's probably what it was.
Now, Buck is calling you out. He says, "Where did you hear this about Chase Claypool?" He says, "You're speaking false news."
I can't remember where I saw it, but that's what maybe it was false news. I don't know. I swear I saw it. They signed him.
So I did have
I'm
Robert
wrong.
Hunt listed as a puzzling choice here. How about Christian Wilkins to the Raiders for 4 years and $110 million, 27.5? Is Christian Wilkins a $28 million a year player?
No, but I will say that now Max Crosby's got another teammate, side mate, whatever you want to call him, to help bum rush our team every week. So that doesn't make me feel good. I'm assuming he had a really good year in Miami last year. I don't know. I don't follow Miami, but you're right. I don't know if he was owed what he was owed or paid.
And the last two free agents I kind of want to talk about here. Brian Burns traded from Carolina to the New York Giants, signs for 5 years, $150 million. Obviously, they get a great pass rusher. They gave up a 2nd-round pick. They get back a 5th, I think, or they traded a 2nd and a 5th. So not a lot to give up, but I think you get a great edge rusher. I just feel like New York is such trash that even adding Brian Burns, it's not going to matter.
Like you can't really add on to a tire fire to make it better, like I can totally see that. But they did kind of bolster the defensive line, so at least they're doing something, They haven't had like a defensive line like that since they beat your Patriots, Wade.
Which we will not talk about, the year that shall not be mentioned. So I do want to also mention this one. So you brought up Tyler Nubin going to the Green Bay Packers in your mock draft. And I said I loved that pick because they do need a safety.
I noticed he moved up in mock drafts, Wade.
He did, but they signed Xavier McKinney to play safety. 4 years, $68 million. Again, just like the Josh Jacobs pick, I really like this pick for Green Bay.
I don't really know anything about McKinney. I'm assuming he's really good because the Packers don't really – not Packers.
Giants?
But they needed a safety. So, I mean, maybe it's a good move.
I did want to ask you about this rumor that I heard. We were talking about T. Higgins a second ago. And speaking of Green Bay, which we love Green Bay, we love Jordan Love. I read, and it could just be fake, but I read that there is talks that Green Bay is looking to trade for T. Higgins, and they're willing to move Jaden Reed as part of a package to get T. Higgins on Green Bay.
That would be another surprising move by them, but that'd be a good move for them because they need to add him to the young rookies they have. That would be good.
That is the free agent news that I had. The draft news we wanted to discuss was a little bit about our favorite teams, mine being the Patriots for this show, and Mark's being the Denver Broncos. We're going to talk a little bit. The Broncos haven't done really much anything in free agency, so I'm curious, obviously, draft coming up. What are you hoping they do in the draft?
Okay, so a lot of the signings that we've done were mainly re-signings. We re-signed Will Lutz, which we actually stole from Jacksonville because he was actually going to sign with Jacksonville, and somehow Peyton must have convinced him. And I think we are deciding to pay him more. We re-signed PJ Locke at safety, which we needed help now that we let go of Simmons. We re-signed Michael Burton, our fullback, because that's a big thing with Sean Payton. We re-signed Adam Troutman and wide receiver Little Jordan Humphrey. These are all just guys I think are Peyton guys. So that's probably why we signed him. The guys outside that we signed, Brandon Jones, a safety from Miami, and defensive tackle Malcolm Roach from the Saints, which is probably another guy that Peyton really likes. So I think those are moves that we needed to make. We didn't really have a lot of money to do a whole lot. I don't think we do have a lot of money still. I think the Broncos are shooting to take more of the dead cap hit with Russell this year than next year. So I think that's why they freed up all the money that they did, not necessarily for players. I think our main plan the whole time was always to go with Stidham and a rookie. So I feel like that plan is still ongoing. But if I was Peyton, I would try and move up into the second round because we don't have a second round pick because we had to give that up to get Peyton. I feel like there's like a lot of talent still going to be in that second round, maybe a tackle or a wide receiver or a center, any one of those. So that would be my main priority would be to get in the second round so we can get some of this depth at some of these positions.
Well, I told you when you talked about Cortland Sutton, I said it could be a draft day trade. I said they could package him with a third round pick to move into the second, and they would get back a fourth. So they would lose their third round pick, but they'd have 2 fourths, and they get a second round pick. But here's the question. So they get a second round pick. You lose Cortland Sutton, who's your number one receiver. They already traded away Jerry Jeudy. So even if you bring in a rookie quarterback, it's kind of like, what are you doing now? You have no receivers.
Right. So I'm not sure, man. I wish I could get into the mind of Sean Payton to know what he's thinking, to know if he likes Sutton, if he wants to keep Sutton. Because Sutton comes in at like 16 next year on the books. So it's not incredibly bad number. I feel like we need Sutton to go if we're going to draft a rookie because he just needs somebody to throw to, and Sutton seemed really reliable for Russ last year. So, like I said, I wish I knew what Payton was thinking.
Well, I wanted to bring up the New England Patriots because Gerard Mayo said that he was going to burn money this offseason in free agency. He's like, we got all this money to burn. And by burn, he means we're going to sign Antonio Gibson. Money burn. Because he has not burned money anywhere else other than he re-signed Josh Uche. We re-signed Unwino, which was a good move. They re-signed Hunter Henry and Kendrick Bourne, which I'm not sure about that move. So he's burning money with re-signings, which I don't necessarily hate. I do like bringing back Unwino. What I think they need to do with the rest of this kindling, if you will, is go out and get Tyler Smith from the Cowboys. He's now your starting tackle with the number 3 pick, and Patriots fans hate hearing this. You've got to take Joe Alt out of Notre Dame. He is the next Jonathan Ogden. You put him with Smith. You've got Unwino. You've got Strange. You've got Jake Andrews. That's a solid offensive line. And then with pick 34, now you get Penix or you get Rattler. You don't have to take a quarterback at 3. You don't take Marvin Harrison. So all you Patriots fans who are saying take MHJ, stop posting your stupid thoughts and letting people know exactly how smart you are on social media. So that's my hope there. Then we get to the third round. I'm kind of hoping for Austin Booker. Fourth round, Elijah Jones, the cornerback from Boston College. It makes sense. He's a hometown guy. Get some defensive line help. And then Frank Gore Jr., maybe late in the draft, get a power runner. I would love Braylon Allen, but he's actually kind of shot up boards, and I think he'll keep going up once he has his pro day.
I think those are all very good moves, Wayne.
That's why I should be the GM.
But I will say, I read somewhere that the reason why the Patriots haven't spent money is because their new GM from the Packers has been playing hardball with every negotiation. So maybe that's why they really haven't made any big splash moves.
So like we got rid of Bill Belichick, the GM, and we brought in Bill Belichick, the GM.
Oh, right. That's what it sounds like.
Now, Mark Lewis does say that if the Broncos let Sutton go, it would kill them. And I agree. They have nobody to throw to at that point.
Yeah, we need
and
somebody.
then he does say, who are the Patriots? Do they still have a team? Well, to quote my favorite movie, Major League, yeah, we got uniforms and everything. It's really great.
Yeah, they're still shitty.
Yeah. They're still pretty bad. But, you know, we're rebuilding. This is the way we can do it. If they take a quarterback at 3, I hate it. If they take a wide receiver, I really hate it. Take Joe Alt. That's the safe bet. He's a guaranteed Hall of Famer. They're going to give him his yellow jacket on stage when they announce him. So that's the guy you want.
So who do they draft, Wayne? I know you want Joe Alt, but who do you think they end up drafting at 3?
So you're going to put my feet to the fire and say, Wayne, you're betting your life savings. Who are they taking?
Yes, now.
Okay, so if that's the case and I have to bet my life savings, the Patriots are going to trade out of 3, and you're going to see a team like the Vikings or the Broncos who need a quarterback move up. It's going to be a quarterback needy team, maybe the Raiders. You're going to see one of those teams move up to 3. The Patriots are going to move back. They're still going to get an offensive lineman. Think like Olu Fashanu might be a guy. Talisi Fuaga might be a guy. I still think they go offensive line. If they trade back, that's the indication I get is offensive line. But that's what I think they're going to do.
But man, like us, the Broncos or the Raiders or even the Vikings try to move up to 3, that's a lot of capital that we'd have to give up. I think a lot of these teams are looking at the 6th pick. Is it the Giants, right? 6?
The Giants.
So that might be the move. That might be the move for these teams to move up to that because they won't have to give up as much. Because even to get the 6th pick, I think we still have to give up 2 firsts, like our 12, and then another first next year, which is a lot.
Well, here's the thing is that we don't really know what's going to happen until draft day because these types of moves happen during the draft when we see who's still on the board. So I understand what you're saying. If we think Caleb Williams goes 1 and then Drake May goes 2, then yeah, that 3 is kind of Marvin Harrison Jr., Jaden Daniels range. So it's like, who wants to move up for him or those guys? But let me throw a curveball at you because like I said, this is draft day trades. What if Caleb Williams goes 1 and then, JJ McCarthy goes 2, and now Drake May is on the board at 3. Those teams, I think, are willing to give up that capital to get Drake May.
Your favorite guy, Wayne, Chris Sims, said that Drake May is a developmental quarterback, and he's gonna fall from 3 or 2 or wherever he's projected.
If I had 1/100th of a penny for every stupid thing that Chris Sims has ever said, I would have a private jet waiting for me on call.
I knew you were going to say that. That's why I brought it up.
Yeah, Chris Sims is a moron. So that said, that is what we have for our free agency / draft show. Actually, no, Mark, you wanted a 2 minutes. What do you want?
I have 1 2-minute warning. I have a gripe. I had an original one that I sent you that when I first told you about that I wanted one, but I've changed my mind since then. And I'm going to talk about this as my 2-minute warning. I heard today that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is possibly running mate next for this election, could possibly be, my favorite guy, Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers, this is the total Aaron Rodgers move. He comes out and says all last year, we don't need non-bullshit football stuff in our locker room. This kind of qualifies as that, if you ask me. So once again, Aaron Rodgers doing the same bullshit that he always does. I don't know, Wayne. I kind of like to hear your take on it.
Well, here's my take on Robert Kennedy Jr. We have a guy here in New Hampshire that runs in the primary every year. He wears a rubber boot on his head, and he says that people should be paid in unicorns. I think that he would get more votes than Robert Kennedy in a presidential race. The guy's a lunatic, and so if he wants to add Aaron Rodgers as his running mate, have fun. That's the perfect ticket for Robert Kennedy. He's not going to get a serious vice presidential candidate. It's either going to be Aaron Rodgers or it's going to be Ron Jeremy or whoever.
No, they said Jesse the Body.
Hey, sure. Well, at least he has some sort of political experience.
Right. But you're
The only
right.
political experience that Robert Kennedy has is that his uncle was president.
And I've heard that Robert Kennedy Jr. is a big conspiracy theorist. I don't really know a lot about him, but yeah, so that would be a perfect pair, like you said.
Yeah, so Alex Jones will be Secretary of State.
Oh, God.
Yeah, we got a whole conspiracy group. But yeah, so that's the show we got here. I appreciate everybody tuning in, all the comments, Man Hour, Mark Lewis, John Peebles. Thank you guys for joining in the chat. And obviously, we love talking free agency. A lot of it's going to keep happening. We're going to have more to talk about next week. Next week's going to be on Thursday, guys. We'll put that out there. Next week is Thursday at 7 because I do have to go to a chorus concert. So I will see that. And then we will talk about what the Patriots have done. We'll see how much more money Gerard Mayo is going to burn. He might actually sign a backup tight end.
And we're going to probably not hear any news from the Broncos.
Yeah, there you go. Two teams not spending money.
Right. Party on, Wayne.
Party on, Mark.